going to do the ratings, and we're going to do some comments from Sue Bird, because she's not very happy about, I guess, some WNBA fans, Fever fans, Caitlin Clark fans, I would say, that may have wanted refunds after Caitlin Clark got hurt. And I don't think it's a apples to apples, apples to oranges, whatever you want to do, comparison to the National Basketball Association, but I can somewhat understand where fans are coming from, because we're witnessing something kind of rare.
To go, oh, the Fever fan base.
Yeah, what do you mean by that? That has to go.
Oh, these new fans. It has to go, because it's not the Fever fans. It's not Caitlin fans. That is a large group of people. Let's stick with the Fever for a second. That is a large group of people. And what we're talking about as we get into the meat of this, we're talking about the faction of that group that is pushing racist agendas and is pushing hate and creating, divisiveness online, acting as fans, acting as Fever fans, acting as Caitlin fans. Now,
Caitlin Clark fans are demanding refunds, like she skips their birthdays and maxed out their credit cards. Cue Sue Bird, WNBA legend, dropping into the chaos with a take so sharp it could cut glass. While the Indiana Fever's ratings skyrocket, like Caitlin just drained a logo 3, a vocal chunk of her fan base is spiraling over every missed shot and loss like it's a personal betrayal. Sue's not having it. She's calling out the entitlement, the instant gratification, and reminding everyone greatness takes time. Refunds? Try patience. This saga's got drama, dunks, and one Hall of Famer setting the record straight.
A larger arena. First of all, WNBA was awesome before Caitlin got here, and it's been awesome for a really long time. They're probably going to go, and yes, it might be a little disappointed they don't see Caitlin play, but they're probably going to go and get an amazing game and then be like, oh wow, this is awesome, I love the WNBA.
The only thing that really stood out, to be honest, was there was one quote in one of the front office sports articles. It's unclear whether the teams will provide any compensation for fans who bought tickets to their games. And I was like, what? Injuries are a part of it. Again, I get it. It sucks. If you bought a ticket to see somebody and they're hurt, I get it. That is a big bummer. But no, you would never say that about men's sports. If LeBron...
Sue Bird says the WNBA is a business? Okay, but what kind? Lemonade stand outside a ghost town? Bake sale hosted in a blackout? Because if your business model includes losing money every year since 1997, we're not talking enterprise. We're talking charity with a shot clock. The league has been riding shotgun on the NBA's financial highway for decades, calling itself a co-pilot while never touching the wheel. This isn't a business. It's a long-term group project where the NBA shows up with a PowerPoint and the WNBA brings glitter glue and vibes. Let's be real. Enron had a more convincing pitch.
They're not talking about WNBA tickets that may normally be $23 or $18 or $12. You're talking about tickets that in some cases people have paid $400, $500, $600 for, much above the actual face ticket value, specifically because Caitlin Clark.
And don't get me wrong, Sue Bird is absolutely a legend if you were already tuned in to the WNBA like it was your full-time job. But for millions of us, we only learned her name after Caitlin Clark started hijacking our feeds like a human SportsCenter alert. Honestly, the first time I heard Seattle Storm, I thought I needed to check the weather app, not Google a basketball team. Turns out it was just Sue Bird running the court in a gym packed with folding chairs and echo. No shade, just facts. Clark brought the spotlight most of us never knew was missing.
To go, because it's not the Fever fans. It's not Caitlin fans. That is a large group of people. Let's stick with the Fever for a second. That is a large group of people. And what we're talking about as we get into the meat of this, we're talking about the faction of that group that is pushing.
Sue Bird says this is all about growing the game. That's precious. But growing it into what exactly? A slightly bigger group chat of people politely pretending they caught the All-Star Game highlights? Let's be honest, most fans didn't even know there was a team called the Atlanta Dream until Caitlin Clark got clotheslined and made headlines. And this whole business model talk? Come on. Real businesses have paying customers, sold-out arenas, and ratings that don't flatline during halftime. Without Clark-level buzz, the business of the WNBA looks more like a subsidized summer camp with uniforms.
Agendas and is pushing hate and creating, divisiveness online. acting as fans, acting as Fever fans, acting as Caitlin fans. Now, whether or not they like basketball, whether or not, I don't know. But that's the group of people.
You know, things that show the market is actually resonating with you. The WNBA has been drifting along, heavily dependent on the NBA's financial support. They're not turning a profit, not even close. The NBA writes the check, politely smiles, and then tosses a star like Giannis onto a cereal box just to mask the losses. It's clear the league's success still relies on that external backing rather than genuine, independent growth.
Specifically, Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird, because Sue Bird has come out and, for lack of a better way of putting it, she's gaslighting fans, plain and simple. She's blowing smoke straight up your keister about the narrative surrounding Caitlin.
So when Sue Bird dismissively claims that Caitlin Clark fans are some kind of disruptive invasion, storming the gates with unreasonable expectations, I can't help but laugh. Because Sue, the truth is, we are the WNBA now. That's right, Caitlin Clark's fan base is the attendance. We're the Nielsen ratings. We're the reason your merchandise tables suddenly need to restock mediums and larges instead of just XS and please take one. We didn't come here to support some vague, idealistic basketball community. We came to watch Caitlin Clark from Ohio launch deep threes and dish out assists like she's Venmoing her teammates in real time. And if she gets knocked to the floor every other possession while league veterans act like mean girls in warm-ups, well, then we're going to speak up loudly and unapologetically, because the league's future, the excitement, and the fans who fill the stands are all about celebrating players like Clark, not dismissing them or pretending we're just a nuisance. We're here to stay, and we're not going anywhere.
Sue Bird comes out on the most recent episode of the Megan Rapinoe and Sue Bird podcast, where she speaks pretty candidly about some of the issues that have been going on within the WNBA, and more specifically in what we're going to talk about today. Sue Bird highlights how Caitlin Clark, the Caitlin Clark new fans, the new fans in the WNBA, they're not the ones responsible for all this toxic racial dialogue that's been surrounding the WNBA this year.
And no, my loyalty doesn't extend to the entire WNBA. My team? The Indiana Fever. That's it. The whole team. Honestly, the rest of y'all, we don't even know your names, and at this point, we're too afraid to ask. You're not on our radar, unless you're guarding Caitlin Clark like she stole your lunch in 3rd grade, or fouling her as if you're auditioning for the WWE. So when seasoned fans or ex-players start sneering at the new crowd and talking down to the very people finally paying attention, I have to ask, do you want the WNBA to survive? Or are you content just being right in your little bubble of suffering and moral superiority, while the league quietly continues its tradition of empty seats and televised games on channel 973? And you're telling these new fans to be patient, grateful, and quiet? Wrong crowd. We didn't just show up to sip overpriced Sprite and be lectured by someone whose jersey was on clearance 2 months ago. We're here to celebrate the game. And Caitlin Clark is leading the charge.
I caught this clip about Sue Bird and Megan Rapinoe complaining about Fever fans because they don't want to show up due to the fact that Caitlin Clark is hurt.
And yes, we see the resentment. We hear the snide comments in post-game interviews, the shade thrown in press conferences. We read the tweets, the eye rolls barely concealed behind keyboard clicks. She's not the only one in the league. Duh. But here's the thing. Caitlin Clark is the reason your next paycheck might come from actual revenue instead of NBA donor fatigue. She's the spark that's ignited a new wave of interest. And trust us, it's not just about her. We've adopted the entire Fever squad. That's our Avengers lineup right now. From Nalissa Smith to Aaliyah Boston, we're learning names, buying jerseys, watching the games. Not just highlights, games. Which, in WNBA terms, is practically a miracle for fan engagement. Now that she's here, you want to scold the fans for being too passionate, too loud, too demanding? Girl, we came here for greatness, not guilt trips. We didn't sign up for therapy sessions about how nobody watched in 2004. This isn't about nostalgia or gatekeeping. It's about expectations. Because if you call this a business, then don't act surprised when customers ask for receipts. We paid, we watched, we tuned in. Now we want a product worth supporting. And Caitlin Clark is showing us what that looks like.
Sue Bird, respectfully, calm down. Respectfully, cut it out, please. Please cut it out respectfully. First things first, racism has been impacting the WNBA. Sue, you're right. But not the brainwashed definition that everybody goes to when they think of racism. Racism has been impacting the WNBA because black women within the WNBA hate to see their white counterparts.
Next time Sue Bird or any of the legendary players want to lecture us about patience, consider this. We're not the issue. We're the reason you have a voice and a platform to deliver that message. Call it entitlement if you like, but really what you're witnessing is a new era unfolding. And it's on you to make the most of it. Or at least, don't blink. Instead of celebrating that, some veterans are busy giving fans a lecture, acting like we accidentally wandered into the wrong room. Meanwhile, we need refs to step up. Why is flagrant foul treated like a suggestion? Caitlyn gets hacked relentlessly, like someone trying to steal her password. And the whistle? It's practically sleeping on the job. Maybe it's on mute. Or maybe officials are too busy checking fantasy football scores to notice what's happening on the court. The league's growth depends on recognizing the passion, energy, and star power Caitlin Clark and her new fans bring to the game.
Story. So Sue Bird is not holding back, calling out the racism in the WNBA surrounding Caitlin Clark. So she feels that Clark is being used as a pawn, while true WNBA fans are disgusted with the racial tensions. It's about time someone speaks up. The league has been dealing with this for too long, and Bird is shining a light on the issue. Well, go ahead and shine on, Ms. Bird. Get it all out there and let us understand what is going on behind the scenes.
And don't even get me started on the WWE strike chaos happening in the paint. Some of these players aren't just playing basketball. They're out here committing what could be called almost crimes. Legal ones, sure, but barely. I've seen fewer body slams in a UFC prelim. Shoulder checks, elbows flying, and players staring each other down like they're in a bar fight scene from a 90s movie. Meanwhile, the league just smiles and shrugs like, that's just how we show competitive spirit. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark sits on the sidelines for a few games, but still packs stadiums like she's Beyoncé in a warm-up suit. Fans aren't just there for popcorn. They're craving to breathe the same air as the phenom who single-handedly made sports anchors struggle with her name. Nalissa Smith. Because what really matters is people are still buying tickets, still driving across states, and still tuning in. The game's future is bright, and the energy Caitlin and her fans bring keeps it that way.
High would you say the ceiling is for Caitlyn year 2?
Yeah. I mean,
what ceiling?
What did Michael? I always like to quote Michael Jordan in these moments.
The ceiling is
the roof.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was incredible last year. Learned a lot about the league, so she's just probably going to add not necessarily anything to her game. I know she worked out in the off season and talks about her strength and wanting to get more physical, but it's the experience part that as you get older in this league starts to show itself combined with the skill. So she knows the league now, and so that's dangerous. She's surrounded by a ton of talent. They did really well in free agency, but yeah, it's her second year, so it'll be fun to see like what adjustments she makes and what she did.
People are still showing up with posters of their daughters, hoping to catch a blurry glimpse of Caitlin waving. She might be dressed in jeans and a hoodie, not even in her team uniform, yet fans insist they saw her looking in their direction. It's almost like they're convinced they captured some divine moment, and they swear it's true. Meanwhile, Sue wants to give a lecture about sportsmanship. But honestly, maybe the real issue lies with the referee. How do they miss a clear, full-arm shiver to Caitlin's ribs in HD? Still, Caitlin shows up. Maybe not on the court, but in spirit. Fans understand she's healing, resting, and likely analyzing game tape like a scientist preparing her next move. Their patience is unwavering. They're loyal, holding their breath for her return, like it's Christmas in the middle of the season.
A soccer player, right? They travel around the country and around the world, right? Aren't fans spending thousands and thousands of dollars, on plane tickets, hotels, food, jerseys, and all that just to see you when you played? Yeah, so it's the same concept with the WNBA. They jacked up the prices. The hotels are expensive. The food is expensive. They're going out their way to see one game. So when they don't get the chance to see Caitlin Clark, They have every right to complain.
And that's not something to scold, it's something to celebrate. Let's be real. If Caitlin Clark retired tomorrow and opened a cozy coffee shop in Iowa, the entire WNBA would see a drop in attendance faster than a missed free throw in Detroit. This isn't a dig at other players, it's simple fact. The league finally has a star, a face to rally around, someone who draws people in. She doesn't just play the game, she sells it. She's made college basketball exciting enough to bring half of America to watch women's hoops voluntarily. That's unheard of. It's like buying tickets to a concert just to hear your favorite artist chat before the band hits the stage. And yet, we keep pretending the real problem is too much Caitlin. Her presence energizes the league, sparks conversations, and makes people care. That's worth celebrating, not criticizing.
Caitlin's hard foul, which turned into a flagrant on Angel Reese, which sparked all the things that we dealt with last season. And, the league currently is investigating any racism that happened from the fans or anything that was said. It's almost as if we didn't learn from last year. That Twitter conversation turns into mainstream media conversation because the mainstream media still isn't quite hip to women's sports. They're not quite understanding this world, this game, and are putting all kinds of narratives all over the place. And so those that really do understand this world, they just don't have big enough platform, which is why
Caitlin showed up and now she's here, whether on the court or sidelines, drawing more attention than any other star. Even when she's not filling the box score, her presence alone energizes the arena, making it buzz like a switch has been flipped. So, if Sue Bird wants to support the league, that's great. Use your voice to hold the right people accountable. Highlight the missed calls, the blind spots, the cheap shots, and the passive-aggressive post-game comments. We're not just watching, we're documenting, analyzing, and discussing every moment. Despite bruises, bad officiating, and rough plays, the fans remain committed. They're still watching, still cheering, still craving a glimpse of a legend in the making, even if she's in a hoodie instead of sneakers. That's more than fandom, it's pure devotion. The WNBA should recognize and embrace this passion, not try to dismiss or lecture it, because this loyalty and energy are what will keep growing the sport and elevating it to new heights. If you enjoyed leaving a like and subscribing, more videos are on the screen now.